My mother was standing under our porch light with rain in her hair and a manila court envelope pressed against her chest like it was a baby. "Your sister could lose custody by Friday," she said, and then her eyes slid past me to my husband Caleb, the same man she had once called baggage in front of our wedding guests. She pushed the papers into his hands and whispered, "He knows this court." Caleb opened the file on our entryway table, read for less than a minute, then tapped one line with his finger and said very quietly, "Avery, why is your name on this? My name is Avery Mercer. I'm 33 years old." That was the first time I understood my family hadn't come to my door because they needed help. They had come because they had already used me on paper. 5 years earlier, my parents had treated my marriage like a public mistake. Caleb was 31 then, a widower with a 4-year-old daughter named Nora. He had full legal custody after a brutal year in family court, and he carried that history the way some people carry a scar, not dramatically, not loudly, but carefully. He knew where to park at the courthouse. He knew which clerk would reject a filing for missing initials. He knew that one sentence in an affidavit could change a child's life. My parents, Linda and Gerald Donovan, didn't see any of that. They saw a man with a child who wasn't mine. At my wedding reception, my mother caught my wrist near the dessert table and hissed, "Don't raise another woman's child and call it love." But my father was worse because he said less. He shook Caleb's hand after the ceremony, like he was being polite to a contractor, then told my uncle by the bar, loud enough for half the room to hear, "Avery always had a habit of adopting problems." Then he left before the first dance. For years after that, they kept Caleb at the edge of every family event. Nora was Caleb's daughter, never my stepdaughter. Our Christmas cards went unanswered. My sister Marissa would text me sometimes with little apologies. Mom's in a mood, Dad's being Dad, but she never challenged them either. So when my mother appeared on my porch that October night clutching court documents, I knew desperation had finally made her flexible. But I did not know how desperate. The envelope was from the county family division. Across the top of the first page were the words, "Beer Verified Emergency Petition for Temporary Custody and Accounting of Minors' Funds." Not just custody, accounting. Caleb saw it too. His jaw tightened before he even reached the second page. The petitioner was my sister's ex-husband, Tyler Voss. Marissa had divorced him 2 years earlier, and from what I'd been told, he was bitter, controlling, and constantly threatening court. My mother had always framed him as a villain who wanted to punish Marissa through their son, Eli. But Tyler's petition wasn't only about parenting time. It alleged that Marissa, with my parents' assistance, had concealed withdrawals from Eli's custodial savings account, failed to disclose a child settlement fund from a car accident, and submitted false family support documents to the court to make it appear that Eli had stable backup guardians and protected assets. I remember the heat leaving my hands. My mother stood by our entryway mirror, twisting her wedding ring. It's exaggerated," she said quickly. "Tyler is trying to make your sister look unstable. Caleb knows how these judges work. He can tell us what to say." Caleb didn't answer. He turned another page, then another. The file made soft official sounds against our table. Stapled exhibits, blue ink stamps, a notary seal raised into the paper like a bruise. Then he stopped. He slid one page toward me. It was titled Standby Guardianship Consent and Financial Support Affidavit. My full married name was typed beneath a signature line. Avery Donovan Mercer. Beside it was a signature that looked almost like mine, if someone had only seen my Christmas cards and guessed at the rest. My stomach dropped so hard, I gripped the chair. "I didn't sign this," I said. My mother closed her eyes. Caleb looked at her, and his voice changed into the voice he used only when something dangerous was pretending to be normal. "Linda," he said, "this is notarized." "I know," she whispered. "It says Avery agreed to serve as Eli's standby guardian if Marissa became temporarily unfit." My mother opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Caleb kept reading, slower now. "It also says Avery confirmed she knew about Eli's custodial account and agreed the funds were being preserved for his education." The rain tapped against the porch windows. I stared at the notary stamp. Denise K. Rowland. That name meant nothing to me at first. Then I saw the commission address printed underneath. It was my father's office building. Caleb looked up from the page and said, "Avery, this isn't your sister's custody problem. This is a forged affidavit with your name on it." "Beer," my mother finally spoke. "We only needed it to show the judge there was family support." "Beer, who is we?" I asked. She looked toward the door like my father might walk in and save her. That was when I knew she hadn't brought the whole file because she trusted me. She had brought it because Tyler's lawyer had found the document first. And by Friday morning, the court was going to ask whether I had lied under oath or whether my family had forged me into their case. Caleb didn't let my mother sit down. Not because he was cruel, but because he'd learned something in his own custody fight. Once people got comfortable, they started performing. Standing made them answer faster. "Who notarized this?" he asked. My mother swallowed. "Denise." "Brr, Denise who?" "Brr, she works with your father." "Brr," I let out a laugh that didn't sound like mine. "Dad's office manager?" "Brr, she's a notary," Mom said, as if that made the forgery polite. Caleb turned the page toward her. A notary is supposed to verify identity, witness the signature, and record it in a journal. "Did Avery appear in front of Denise?" Brr, Mom said nothing. "Brr, Linda." "Brr, no." Brr, the word fell between us, small and poisonous. Nora, who was 9 by then, appeared at the top of the stairs in her pajamas, holding her stuffed rabbit by one ear. "Dad?" Brr, Caleb's face softened instantly. "Back to bed, bug. Everything's okay." But Nora looked at me, not him. She'd always been sensitive to the room. She had been 4 when I married her father, old enough to miss her mother and young enough to wonder if loving me was a betrayal. I had spent 5 years proving I wasn't leaving. And downstairs, my own mother had brought evidence that my family had used my name like a spare key. I went to Nora, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "Grown-up paperwork drama. Nothing scary." Brr, she nodded, unconvinced, and disappeared. When I came back, Caleb had pulled out his phone. "Do not call anyone yet," my mother snapped. He froze. "Excuse me?" "Brr, if Gerald knows I came here, he'll say I made it worse." Brr, that was the first honest thing she'd said. "Then start from the beginning," I said, "and don't edit." Brr, my mother's shoulders sagged. Marissa, she explained, had fallen behind after the divorce. Tyler had been paying child support, but Eli's medical bills from the accident were complicated, and the settlement money was placed in a restricted custodial account. Marissa wasn't supposed to touch it without court approval. "But she needed help," Mom said. "Eli needed therapy. Rent was due." Tyler was dragging his feet. Brr, Caleb's eyes narrowed. "How much was withdrawn?" Brr, Mom looked at the floor. "How much, Linda?" Brr, 28,000. Brr, my knees went weak. "From a child's protected account?" Caleb asked. She was going to put it back. Brr, that sentence told me everything. People who steal always say the money was just visiting. Beer, and my fake affidavit?" I asked. Mom wiped rain from her cheek, though she'd been inside long enough for it not to be rain anymore. At the first hearing, the judge asked about Eli's support network. Tyler was claiming Marissa was isolated and financially reckless. Gerald said if we could show you were willing to step in, it would calm things down. "BR, so Dad forged me?" "BR, he said families don't need permission to help each other." "Beer," I almost screamed. Caleb slid the page into a separate pile. "And Denise notarized it," Mom nodded. "Brr, does Marissa know my signature is forged?" I asked. A pause. That tiny pause destroyed whatever loyalty I still had left. "She was scared," Mom said. I stepped back from the table. She knew. "BR, she didn't sign your name." "BR, but she filed it." Mom had no answer. Caleb leaned both hands on the table. "Linda, listen carefully. Avery cannot advise you, protect Marissa, or say one word in court that isn't the truth. If this document is challenged, she needs her own lawyer." My mother looked horrified. Not at the forgery, at the inconvenience of me defending myself. But if Avery says she didn't sign it, Tyler will use that to take Eli. And if she lies, Caleb said, she could be accused of perjury. Mom turned to me with the face she used when I was 15 and had embarrassed her at church. Avery, this is your nephew. That did it. No, I said. Do not put Eli in front of your crime like a shield. Her mouth opened. I kept going. You mocked me for loving a child who wasn't biologically mine. You told me not to raise another woman's child. But the second you needed a fake stable woman for court, suddenly I am family enough to forge? Her face crumpled, but I wasn't finished. You didn't ask me to help Eli. You used me to hide what you did to him. Caleb's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen, and the color drained from his face. It's Marissa, he said. My mother lunged. Don't answer. I grabbed the phone before Caleb could decide and put it on speaker. My sister's voice came through shaking. Avery? Is Mom there? I looked at her. Yes. Marissa started crying. Don't believe whatever she told you. Dad just called. He said if you don't confirm the affidavit, he'll tell the court you knew about the withdrawals too. The room went silent. Then Caleb looked at the forged document again and said, Now we know why your name is on it. Marissa kept crying on speaker until her words blurred. Caleb took the phone gently from my hand. Marissa, this is Caleb. Stop talking for a second and listen. She hiccuped. Are you alone? No. Eli's asleep. Dad left 10 minutes ago. Did he threaten Avery in person? He said, her voice cracked. He said if Avery ruins this, he'll make sure the court understands she helped manage the account. He said there are emails. I stared at my mother. What emails? Mom's lips moved, but no sound came out. Caleb's expression went flat. Marissa, do not delete anything. Do not text your father. Do not call Denise. Do you understand? But court is Friday. Then tomorrow morning, Avery gets counsel. You get counsel separate from your parents. And if your father is threatening witnesses, that matters. Witness. The word landed hard. I wasn't a daughter in this anymore. I wasn't a sister. I was evidence. Marissa whispered, I'm sorry, Av. I wanted to say something kind. I wanted to be the sister who forgave quickly, because Eli needed peace. But all I could see was my name under a fake oath. Did you know? I asked. Silence. Then, not at first. My mother made a wounded sound. I closed my eyes. When did you find out? After the first hearing. Dad said it was already done, and it would look worse if we corrected it. And you let it sit there? I was afraid Tyler would take Eli. Caleb leaned closer to the phone. Marissa, Tyler may be many things, but a forged filing and missing child funds are separate from custody feelings. If you want any chance of protecting your son, you need to start telling the truth before someone else tells it for you. She cried harder. Dad said truth is for people who can afford consequences. That sounded exactly like Gerald Donovan. After we hung up, my mother reached for her coat. I should go. No, Caleb said. You should stay and write down everything you remember. She bristled. I'm not making a confession in your kitchen. I stepped between her and the door. Then why did you come? Her eyes flashed. Because your husband knows this court. And you thought he'd teach you how to lie better? She slapped me. It wasn't hard enough to knock me down. It was worse than that. Controlled, familiar, the kind of slap that said she still believed my face belonged to her. Caleb moved so fast the chair scraped backward. Get out, he said. My mother stared at him, stunned. This is family. He opened the front door. Rain blew across the threshold. No, he said. This is my wife. For a moment I saw the wedding reception again, my father walking out, my mother's fingers digging into my wrist. Caleb standing alone with a little girl in patent shoes who had asked if Grandma Linda didn't like her. Back then, Caleb had said, "We don't chase people who make love feel like a debt." Now he stood in our doorway and made good on it. Mom left without the file. At 7:15 the next morning, Caleb drove me to the office of the attorney who had represented him during Nora's custody case, Renee Albright, a woman with silver hair, red glasses, and the terrifying calm of someone who had watched hundreds of families lie under fluorescent lights. She read the affidavit twice. Then she asked, "Did you sign this?" No. Did you authorize anyone to sign it? No. Did you know about Eli's restricted account? No. Did you receive any emails about it? No. She tapped the notary stamp. Good. Then, today, we notify the court and opposing counsel that your signature appears to be forged. We do not wait for Friday. My stomach twisted. Will that hurt Marissa? Renee looked at me over her glasses. The truth doesn't hurt your sister. The forgery did. The withdrawals did. The cover-up did. Caleb took my hand under the table. Renee continued. And you need to prepare yourself. Whoever forged this may have created backup documents. Emails, Caleb said. Renee nodded. Exactly. By noon we knew. My father had forwarded Renee's notice to himself by accident, then responded in a rage to everyone on the chain, including Tyler's lawyer. His email read, Avery is panicking. She knew more than she's admitting. I have proof she reviewed the account plan last March. Attached were 3 printed screenshots, all from an email address with my maiden name, Avery, Donovan.support@gmail.com. I had never seen it before in my life. But the profile photo was mine. Taken from my wedding. Renee didn't gasp. Good lawyers don't waste oxygen on outrage. She enlarged the screenshots on her monitor and leaned in. The fake emails were dated 7 months earlier. From Avery.Donovan.support@gmail.com to Gerald.Donovan.DonovanBenefits.com. Subject, Eli account. Dad, I looked over what you sent. If the funds are only being borrowed and replaced before review, I don't see the issue. Marissa needs stability. Another said, I'm willing to be listed as standby guardian if needed. Don't involve Caleb. He'll overreact because of his own custody trauma. I felt Caleb's hand loosen around mine. Not pull away. Just go still. That's not me, I said, too quickly, because suddenly I needed him to know more than anyone. I know, he said, but his face had gone pale in a way that made me hate my father with a clarity I'd never felt before. Gerald hadn't just forged my name. He'd written contempt into my mouth and aimed it at my husband's deepest wound. Renee printed everything. Do you use Gmail? She asked. Yes, but not that address. Do your parents know your common passwords? I almost said no. Then I remembered being 22, filling out job applications at my parents' kitchen table while Dad complained I was locking him out of the family printer account. I had used the same password for everything back then. Nora Song? No. Before Nora. My childhood dog. My face must have changed. Renee nodded. We'll subpoena login records if needed. But first, we file a sworn denial and request an emergency status conference. Mr. Voss's lawyer will be very interested. Tyler's lawyer? I asked. She's the one attacking the affidavit. Right now, your interests align more with hers than with your family, as. That sentence hurt in places I didn't know were still loyal. By 3 o'clock, Renee had filed my affidavit. I did not sign, authorize, draft, review, or submit the standby guardianship consent. I did not know about Eli's restricted funds. I did not create or use the Gmail account. I was requesting the court preserve all electronic and notary records. At 3:18, my father called. I didn't answer. At 3:19, he texted. You always were dramatic. At 3:21. Beer, think carefully before you burn your sister's life down. At 3:23. Beer, Caleb is enjoying this. Men like him love dragging real families into court. I showed Caleb. He read it, then set my phone face down like it was something dirty. Bar. He wants you angry, he said. I am angry. BR. I know. But he wants you messy. BR. So we got very neat. Renee told us to make a timeline. Caleb made coffee. I sat at our dining table and wrote every family event from the past year. Every conversation where Eli, money, or custody had come up. At 6:40, Marissa arrived. She looked smaller than I remembered, swallowed by a gray hoodie, her eyes swollen. Eli was with Tyler for the evening, she said. Court order. She stood in my doorway the way Mom had the night before, except she wasn't carrying papers. She was carrying a laptop. Marissa wouldn't look at me when she opened it. Brr. It's from Dad's office security camera, she whispered. Denise sent it to me after Tyler subpoenaed her notary journal. She's scared. Brr, the footage showed my father's conference room. Date stamp, March 14th. Dad sat at the head of the table. Mom sat beside him. Denise Rowland stood with a notary stamp in her hand. And there, on the table, was the affidavit with my name on it. My mother was crying in the video saying, Gerald, Avery should be asked. Brr, Dad snapped. Avery married a courthouse addict with a kid? She'll turn everything into a morality play. Brr, then he picked up a pen. A blue pen. And signed my name. I stopped breathing. Caleb reached over and closed the laptop halfway. Not to hide it, but to give me a second before my own father forged me again in pixels. Marissa sobbed. I should have told you. Bar, yes, I said. She flinched. I wanted to comfort her. I also wanted her to feel the weight of that yes forever. Why now? Caleb asked. Marissa wiped her face. Because Dad told me tonight that if Avery won't cooperate, he'll say she was paid. Brr, I went cold. Paid? Brr, Marissa nodded and opened another folder. There was a bank transfer receipt, .br $5,000, sent from my parents' joint account to an account ending in 4419. Memo, Avery Support, Eli Court. Bar. That's not my account, I said. Caleb leaned in. Whose is it? Brr, Marissa's voice barely rose above the rain outside. Bar, Mom opened it online last year. In your maiden name. Brr, the bank account was the thing that finally broke my mother. Not the forged signature. Not the fake Gmail. Not even the video of my father signing my name while insulting my husband. It was the account in my maiden name. Because that one had her fingerprints all over it. Renee filed everything before midnight. By Friday morning, the custody hearing had become something else entirely. I sat behind my attorney, with Caleb on one side and Marissa on the other. Across the aisle, my father looked perfectly pressed in a navy suit, like integrity was something he could dry clean. My mother sat beside him, gray-faced and silent. When the judge asked about the affidavit, Renee stood. Your Honor, my client did not sign this document. She did not authorize it. We have reason to believe her identity was used to support fraudulent filings and financial misrepresentations involving a minor's protected funds. My father actually laughed under his breath. Then Tyler's lawyer rose and said, Your Honor, we have received corroborating evidence, including notary records, bank documentation, and video footage. Bar, that was when Gerald Donovan stopped laughing. The video played on a courtroom monitor. There he was, leaning over the paper. There was my name, written by his hand. There was my mother saying, Avery should be asked. Bar, and there was my father answering, Avery married a courthouse addict with a kid. For the courtroom went so quiet I could hear Marissa crying into her sleeve. Caleb did not move. He just held my hand. The judge watched the footage twice. Then she looked at my father and said, Mr. Donovan, you are not to contact Avery Mercer, directly or indirectly. You are not to access, transfer, or manage any funds related to the minor child. This matter will be referred for investigation. My mother made a sound like she'd been punched. Marissa lost temporary control of Eli's finances that day, but not custody. The judge ordered supervised financial oversight, mandatory accounting, and a repayment plan. Tyler received expanded parenting time while everything was reviewed. It wasn't the clean victory anyone wanted, but it was the first decision in years built on truth instead of my father's version of it. Denise surrendered her notary commission before anyone could take it. My father's business collapsed slowly, then all at once. My mother called me 3 weeks later from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. I'm sorry, she said. I waited. For the slap, she added. I closed my eyes. That's not the biggest thing you did. Silence. Then, smaller, I know. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't enough. But it was the first sentence she'd ever spoken to me that didn't try to make me responsible for her shame. Marissa came over every Sunday after that. At first because Renee said transparency mattered, then because Eli asked to see Nora. The two kids built pillow forts in our living room, while their parents learned how to talk without our father standing between every word. One afternoon, Marissa found me washing dishes and said, "You were more of a sister to Eli by telling the truth than I was by hiding it." I didn't know what to do with that, so I handed her a towel. 6 months later, Nora had a school family tree project. She drew Caleb, then me, then her birth mother as a bright yellow star above us. For a second, I held my breath, waiting for grief to enter the room. Then she drew herself between all three of us. At the bottom, in purple marker, she wrote, "Family is who keeps you safe." That night, I taped the picture to the refrigerator. Caleb stood behind me, his arms around my waist, his chin on my shoulder. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows, just like it had the night my mother came to our porch with court papers and panic. Only this time, nobody was begging him to fix a lie. Nora ran in wearing mismatched socks, grabbed both our hands, and pulled us toward the living room fort she and Eli had made from blankets and chairs. I looked at Caleb, at the man my parents had called baggage. Then I looked at the children laughing under a roof built from everything we refused to abandon. And I finally understood, the family my parents mocked was the only one that never forged love to make it look real. If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place. And if you want more stories like this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel.